Hey, what's happening? What's poppin', everybody? It's your coach of the Detroit Butterfrees, the Seakings versus Melontosh, Week 7 of the GBA, where we are facing one of the better coaches this week in the GBA in Melontosh, who's kind of that borderline playoff team where he's going to make playoffs, but he's going to be a nail biter getting in there. And we're going to continue to put the pressure onto these coaches, trying to get that very first seed or second seed into playoffs where I can get hopefully a first round bye. That's the plan. And let's look at his team real quick. So hazard control is going to be very, very important in this game because he's got the Charizard and I have the Talonflame and I don't have any removal. But his removal is going to be either Rotom, Charizard, Mew. So logistically you would think Rotom, but let's look at his potential Scarfers. Why he needs a Scarfer versus me? Let's look at my speed tiers. Talonflame, Mega Diancie, Garchomp. He's going to have a Scarfer. His team is very, very fat, and he does have speed control with Victory Bell, but Melontosh is smart. If I get rid of the Sun, then Garchomp could potentially 6-0 him right there and then, so he needs an ability. He's going to have some potential Scarfer. Obviously not Scarf Charizard, not Scarf Victory Bell, not Scarf Snorlax, so it's looking like a Scarf Rotom, which means that he's probably then going to be either a Defog Charizard, Defog Rotom, Defog Mew. The most logical thing out of those three is going to be the Mew, unless he's going to really be pressured to defog, because my potential South Rockers are going to be Blissey, which Blissey always comes in on Rotom, and potentially Mega Diancie, and then Garchomp, in which you're going to have to play around a lot of things. So it's looking like a standard recycle Snorlax or a Curselax, and then DD Zygarde, and pretty much the whole rest of the team is standard. I don't want to let the Charizard in freely, so I want to put a lot of pressure onto that, as I have a ton of counterplay to the Charizard, but I don't know what sets. I need to figure out what that is. So on my side of the field, Mega Diancie always looking like a big threat. If I can chip down the Snorlax or get rid of its berry, or just put it in range where Mega Diancie can get rid of it, then a Rock Polish Mega Diancie will be able to win the game, as he hardly has much for that on his entire roster. And getting rid of Charizard means getting rid of the Victory Bell, in which can definitely tear through holes through my team, because other than something like my Talonflame, I have pretty much no switch-ins to it, because it's going to be probably some sort of mix set, because I do have a Blissey. He's got the means of like Power Whip, Sludge Bomb. Other than like something like Talonflame, it will easily be able to 2KO everything on my team. So let's get into this match real quick. So I'm going to decide, once again, I'm going to lead off with my Talonflame, because if he does have a potential Stealth Rocker, it's going to be his Mew. If he doesn't lead off with his Mew, I don't really think he's going to have a Stealth Rocker, and I would expect his Mew to be able to beat my Mega Diancie, because you want your Rocker to beat Mega Diancie so you don't get Magic Bounce. He leads off with the Rotom. I'm going to get out of there. I'm going to go out into my Blissey, and he's going to go for a Volt Switch. This tells me a lot of information. I don't know how invested he is, but he definitely is invested, and he's going to go right out into the Snorlax. So I'm going to decide this turn, now knowing that the Rotom is offensive, I'm going to throw off a Toxic here onto the Snorlax, as what this is going to allow me to do is, if he's Choice Band, takes me out right here, that's going to put me in obviously a bad position, but as you're going to see, he's not Choice Banded. That would have been worst case scenario, and I wouldn't expect something like that, because he doesn't have Mega Diancie switch in. I now have that Snorlax on a timer, and if I am able to limit the Snorlax from recycling, then he's going to be in a lot of trouble. So now I'm going to go out into my Zapdos. That definitely does beat that Snorlax, because I do have the Metal Sound on deck. He's going to Volt Switch out, expecting, I'm not sure what, but just trying to get momentum. Obviously he's going to go right back out in the Snorlax, because he's thinking the Snorlax beats the Zapdos, even though he's on a timer. I'm not sure why. Once again, he's making these series of plays, because you need this at full in order to check the Mega Diancie, especially if I'm modest. I do miss a Metal Sound right there, as he gets off a return, but I don't really think that this is going to matter much because now he sees a Metal Sound. He's going to switch out. He cannot allow the Snorlax to get too low because right now it's at 50%. I think that now my Mega Diancie is looking really good for him. So now he goes out into his Rotom. He once again is looking most likely Choice Scarf. That's what I'm expecting at this point in time. I'm not sure if he wants to Trick. I'm not sure if he wants to Toxic. I'm not sure what he wants to do. So I'm going to go out into the Garchomp. That accounts for the Trick or the Volt Switch. He goes and makes a very good play and goes for the Hydro Pump. Even though my Garchomp did take a lot of damage there. Now he goes out into the Snorlax, maybe expecting me to have Choice Scarf on the Garchomp there. But he probably went out into the Snorlax knowing that I can take any one hit with the Snorlax and then recycle. So knowing that Garchomp gets to a Kyoto, I'm going to get out of there, go out into my Blissey, and get some lefties right back. And once again, I'm just going to go back out into the Garchomp onto the Snorlax because I can take any one hit unless he's Ice Punch. And if he's Ice Punch, then he's not going to have coverage for my Mega Diancie as he's already shown Recycle. So now I'm just going to get my Stealth Rocks because if I'm basically going to see what his hazard removal is, if he has any. And if he doesn't have any, the game could be just over right here and there. So now, not wanting to take a Willow and Ice Beam, I'm just going to go right out in my Talonflame as he goes for the Defog. So that's all fine with me. That's not a setup Mew. That's not his Mew is now not really a big threat to me because he's Defog, and I can put a lot of pressure onto that. So now I'm going to go for Toxic. If the Mew decide to get in, I get a Toxic on that. If he goes out into the Rotom, which is a pretty good Talon response, I get a Toxic off onto that. And now I'm just going to get out of there as even if I did have U-turn, I would not go for it because he's once again looking like Scarf Rotom. He's just going to keep spamming that Volt Switch, knowing that I'm not going to go Garchomp because if he ever goes for Hydro, he's going to take me out, and I need to get up my Stealth Rocks in order to pressure the Charizard, so I never go Garchomp onto the Rotom at this point in time. So he's going to make a very probably smart play because I am a timid Zapdos, but I do not outspeed max speed Charizard. And if he's like a standard Charizard, he's going to knock me out with a Fire Blast here. So I'm going to go out into my Mega Diancie, not really expecting him to expect me to go out in Mega Diancie and fire off a Solar Beam there. So anyways, he ends up going in Zygarde onto the Zapdos, potentially expecting a T-Bolt there. I go out in a Mega Diancie, and now I'm able to fire off a Moonblast, and he goes out into his dedicated switch in, which is going to be the Snorlax, which is all fine and dandy. He's at 50%. He's on a timer. I potentially get to see if he has a coverage move here for Mega Diancie, like Earthquake or maybe Heavy Slam if he is that. But he goes for a return, which is kind of an interesting play because I don't know. I could have set up a Calm Mind there, but he knew next. Actually, no, that was a fine play because next turn he just recovers back up to full. And now, knowing that return last turn did about 70%, I know that I can fire off another T-Bolt as he goes out in the Charizard. So right here, I'm going to stop because he's going to sack his Charizard off right here. The reason why he made this play is that we're doing a lot of switches and we're not really gaining any plays. So if he goes Charizard, he's going to force a lot of momentum on his side of the field if I go for Roost, because next turn he forces me out. And he expected me to Roost because he did not know if I was out of range for another return. But because I could have lived another hit from that Snorlax, I decided to put a lot of pressure onto that Snorlax because it did not recycle at that point in time. And if he didn't recycle and he's racking up the Toxic, he's going to not have a response to Mega Diancie, which is my win con. And I'm going to try to win with Rock Polish Seakings. So, goes out in a Charizard. He loses that, which means he loses Victory Bell pretty much because he's got no Sun. He loses his most offensive Mon that has the ability to break my team depending on what set he is. And he's honestly, like, that was easily the biggest turn of the game right there. So, he goes Mew onto the Zapdos. And so, you know, he's Ice Beam. Kind of expected that because I have a Garchomp and he's Defog, so He wants to be able to deal with that, but I could have just roosted, and I don't know. That was I don't know, interesting. I guess he really shows me right there he doesn't have much for the Zapdos if Ice Beam Muse is his response, even though I outspeed, and then Ice Beam's not going to be doing too much. So once again, getting the pressure onto his Snorlax to recycle, just chipping it down with Toxic Moonblast, always forcing him to recycle. Every single time he recycles, I go out in a Garchomp because I get Rough Skin on him. He's racking up the Toxic. I get up my Stealth Rocks. So here, I already know what his Mew is. I've already established everything. I go for a Swords Dance here because if he goes out in a Mew, guaranteed get a kill with Dragonium. Another thing, I'm supposed to be Dragonium, and for whatever reason, I'm Groundium. I didn't realize that until now. That's pretty bad for me, but thank God that it ends up not mattering at all, as I still am Outrage, which Outrage can still put a lot of pressure onto his team because I do not, he doesn't have Gobelion or anything like that. So yeah, Victory Bell's gonna drop right here, except he's gonna show that he's Focus Sash on Victory Bell, so that's a very, very interesting item there, choice. But hey, if it works out, it works out. So anyways, yeah, I'm just going to knock that out if he switches out for whatever reason into the Rotom, expecting me to go for another Earthquake. That would have been a pretty good play. Well, very, very risky play, and I've already punished prior risky play, so I'm up by a lot, and I'm going to go for an Outrage as I go for crit. I think I'm not, yeah, actually that mattered a lot, as I'm pretty sure, yeah, +2 Outrage didn't kill Mew. Yeah, definitely didn't kill Mew. So do get very, very lucky here, unfortunately, but I didn't need Rocks Up at this point in time, and my Garchomp was always going to be checked by the Mew, so I just wanted to get that in range of the Mega Diancie. So now, unfortunately, I hacked him. Now, I think, so he went out into the Mew to revenge a +2 Garchomp. I feel that Rotom would have been a little bit safer of a revenge. Now, he's in a predicament to go for a, Choice Scarf Volt Switch, predicting me to preserve my Garchomp, or I don't know, kind of in a 50-50 because he's really, really in the back. So anyways, he now takes me out, showing that 100% that he's Choice Scarf that I already knew, and takes out my Garchomp that was locked into Outrage, and that's totally fine with me. He's locked into HB Ice. I'm now going to go out into Mega Diancie, go for a Calm Mind here. He hasn't shown that he's Earthquake, but it's very logical. If you keep switching Snorlax in on Mega Diancie, you're going to be something like Earthquake. And knowing that I can live in Earthquake, I'm going to now just get this Snorlax out of my face, as he does go fire off this Earthquake, and as you're going to see, I do live that quite fine, and I'm just going to now be able to get rid of this Snorlax. So all he's got left at this point in time is going to be the Rotom and Zygarde. Yeah, Zygarde. So we get rid of that, and now he goes out in a Zydaddy. So this is definitely going to show me that he's E-Speed, because I feel like you wouldn't go out in a Zygarde onto Mega Diancie unless you were E-Speed, because if not, you would just go out in a Rotom and go for a Volt Switch. But I don't want to choke this. I don't want him to be some whack-ass Zygarde, so I'm just going to go for a Moonblast. I don't feel like I don't play for differential. I could have went out in a Slowbro and kind of went from there, but now I go out into the Zapdos. So the whole reason why I'm not going out into Slowbro right now onto the Zygarde is just because if he's Camouflage, if he's Weakness Policy, Zapdos gives me a higher, like, pretty much guaranteed win unless he, like, somehow hacks me a bunch of turns. So what Zapdos does here is, if Zygarde decides to stay in knowing that he can live HB Ice, I get HB Ice damage. Even if he's Camouflage, if he, no matter what he is, literally no matter what set he is, I get the outspeed, I go for HB Ice. I guarantee to a KO, unless he's like Spadaffiachi or something like that. But once again, I get the outspeed here. If he's Camouflage, it won't work at this point in time because I am Metal Sound, and I once again hit him for huge damage here. So If I did go Slowbro and he's some like whack ass weird shit like I don't know, just like weakness policy or something like that, I didn't want to start playing around that, and now just trying to clean out this game with 100% win. I'm gonna go for an HP Ice, as he's gonna go for a Dragon Dance, just just throwing all his cards out right now into the Zygarde, and I have no reason to keep the Zapdos. I need to handle the situation right in front of me, and I always have Slowbro to easily revenge the Zygarde, and he shows that he is Dragonium, which means that he's 3 attacks, E-Speed, Dragon Dance, Outrage, 1,000 Arrows. He's gonna easily be able to take out the Zapdos, which is totally fine. Zapdos put in the finest of work, took out the Charizard, which, as I said, that gave me so much momentum. It gave me it honestly gave me like 2.5 Pokemon in my eyes. So here, gonna go out in a Slowbro, have no reason not to click Ice Beam, as he's going to switch out here. It's not really like, yeah, he switches out into Rotom, but like he gets rid of his boosts. Either way, like I would have been in a fine position there. So he's gonna obviously Volt Switch. I'm going to now preserve Differential because I feel like I 100% have this. Like, I know his Rotom, I know his Zygarde, and it's pretty much more than checkmate at this point in time, so I could easily afford to go for Differential because I have no reason not to at this point in time, especially when the playoff race is so close. Once again, see, I do have Ice Beam on my Blissey, but I guess he's going to scout that and also expect me to go Slowbro, and he's just trying to get momentum, but I'm actually like he's not doing enough damage to my Blissey. Like, he will get PP Salt out of Volt Switches before the Rotom does enough damage to my Blissey. So that's the situation at hand. I'm not sure if I'm gaining or losing lefties. I'm probably losing a little bit health from the Volt Switches and then lefties, but once again, I could fire off an Ice Beam, and I could live 1,000 arrows, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, I just go out into my Slowbro because, once again, no reason not to. And he goes for a Dragon Dance. He said, alright, this is it. I gotta go for game. Maybe I get a crit versus Slowbro and I'm randomly Spit F Slowbro. Maybe. Yeah, once again, he's just trying to get a kill here. +1 Outrage does about 50%, which, as you're gonna see, is not gonna be doing enough damage, and I'm gonna be able to take out the Zygarde, get my lefties back, and yeah, so pretty much very solid game versus Melontosh. Once again, going Charizard into the Zapdos sealed the game for me, as he's gonna lock himself out in the T-Bolt. Next week, let's talk about next week here. I face Randy, as he's got the Celesteal, he's got Mega Lopunny, he's got a very offensive core. So Randy, he's gonna be catching the fattest of L's, because Randy's the most dogshit player I've ever seen in my entire life, is all I gotta say with that. On this week, I think Melon, he had a very solid team, and for the most part he was playing well, and I know that he'll definitely bounce back going forward, but this week he got the lizard tail. And I'm just gonna slowly chip down this Rotom with Shadow Balls, try to put this game to a close. And until next time, I'm signing out. Peace.